Iskigamizigedaa. Today, Awanakwe and Anaquad were visiting their grandparents. Oh, it's getting to be that time of year, Mishumas said. Iskigamizigedaa, maple sugaring time. How do you know? Awanakwe asked. Because the days are getting warmer, Mishumas said. We collect the sap from the maple tree. The sap is a liquid, so for it to run, it has to be above freezing outside. It usually starts at the end of March or the beginning of April, Nokomis added. Are we going to go today? Anaquad asked. Gaween, said Nokomis. It takes a few warm days in a row for the sap to start running in those trees. Mewinja, long ago, they didn't have weather forecasts, so they would start to move into their camps at the maple sugar bush when they would hear babase, Nokomis added. They could also look at the base of the maple tree. If the sap is getting ready to run, there will be a ring around the bottom of the tree where the snow has started to melt away, Mishumas added. It was a beautiful sunny day, but still a little chilly. It was a long winter, and it feels good to get outside now that it's getting warmer and the days are getting longer, Mishumas exclaimed. The first thing he did was to place an offering of a sema next to the maple tree and a small birch bark plate of deer meat, wild rice, and blueberries. Nokomis explained, first, we always make an offering to the spirits whenever we take something. This is a spiritual food, this maple syrup, and we need to treat it with respect. We even offer the spirits a small plate with our most important foods on it. We put the tap about 4 feet above the ground on the south side of the tree, because that's the side that gets the most sun, Nokomis explained. We drill about 2 inches into the tree, and the hole should be slanted down so the sap can run out. As soon as he drilled, the sap dripped down the bark. He then lightly tapped the metal tap into the hole. Anaquad tasted one of the drops. It tastes sweet, he said. Nokomis hung a metal holder with a blue bag on the tap. You can help with the next one, Mishumas told them. These trees are living beings like us, and we need to respect them, Mishumas said. The Ojibwa word for maple tree is inanatig. Inane means man, so it really means man tree. How do you tell it's an inanatig? Anaquad asked. It has grayish-brown bark, and the biggest trees have furrowed bark that has these plates. How big do they have to be? Awanakwe asked. We tap trees that are larger than 10 inches in diameter, Mishumas answered. We look for trees with a nice spread-out crown because the tree will produce more sap to get to all those branches. Mewinja, they didn't have metal taps. One of the ways they used to make taps was they would take branches of a sumac tree and make a hole in the middle, Nokomis said. These still make good taps, she added. Would those sumac taps work with the blue bags? Anaquad asked. Oh, there were no blue bags back then either. Instead, they would make biscuit tanagan, a folded birch bark basket, and place that under the tap, said Mishumas. They tapped about 50 trees that day. The snow was still very deep, and sometimes they sank through the snow even with their snowshoes on. It was hard work. This should be enough for us and so that we can share the syrup with our relatives who can't go out and tap trees, Nokomis explained. The next day, they all went back to the sugar bush and collected all the sap there was in the blue bags, even though there wasn't very much yet. Mishumas explained, "We're going to boil up this small amount of sap and eat all of it up at a ceremony. We do this to show the spirits that we are thankful that they provided for us. This is how we do it in our family," Nokomis added. "Different families and communities may have different ways of doing things, but that doesn't mean they are wrong." A few days later in the sugar bush, Anaquad noticed there was a little less snow than there was before. It was easier to walk around too, because the snow had hardened. They all helped collect sap by pouring out each blue bag into a bucket. As they collected, Mishumas started a fire in a pit enclosed by bricks. "It's time to boil down." On top of the bricks, he put a shiny stainless steel pan. "Come over and pour the sap into the pan." Mewinja, they would use a frame built out of logs and boil the sap in cast iron kettles, Mishumas said. "Our pan boils a little faster since it's thinner, so it doesn't take so long to heat up. Before they had kettles, they used a birch bark pot. We Ojibwa have a long history of adapting to new technology to make our work easier and quicker." The sap took a long time to boil. While Mishumas tended the fire, Anaquad, Awanakwe, and Nokomis kept collecting sap from the trees further away and adding it to the pan. "Be careful, try not to spill any," Nokomis said. Awanakwe was worried when she heard that. "What happens if we do?" she asked. "Don't worry, we'll have a ceremony with Asima and ask the spirits for forgiveness so they know we didn't mean to waste what they gave us," Nokomis reassured her. Mewinja, everyone in the family would go out and camp at the sugar bush, Mishumas said. They tapped a lot of trees, and so they would have to boil all day and all night. Back then, they didn't have all the technology that we have to make things easier, so it was really hard work. Everybody in the community helped out. All the children would be out there, so they gave them maple candy in the evening to relax them so they could sleep. You'd think it would make them hyper, but actually it calmed them down. They boiled the sap for many hours. It takes about 35 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup, Nokomis told them. Finally, Mishumas pulled the pan off the fire. "It's finally thick enough to be maple syrup," he said. "Now we can it." Nokomis carefully ladled the syrup over cheesecloth and into mason jars. "When we get home, I'll boil these jars so that they seal and the syrup will stay fresh." Mewinja, they boiled the syrup down even more and made sugar to season their food, Nokomis said. They would work the thickened sap with a wooden stick in a wooden trough until it became sugar. Sometimes they would put the sugar into molds and make sugar cones and other shapes. That maple candy would give the Ojibwa energy for all the hard work ahead in the spring, summer, and fall. It was also a food that wouldn't go bad before the Ojibwa had refrigerators. The next few days were cold. Is Sugarbush over? Anaquad asked. Gaween, said Nokomis. We'll get more sap once it warms up. We usually have our taps out for about 3 weeks. When the sap runs slow down like this, we have to get ready for the next time we boil. We have to get more firewood and wash our buckets. It's important we follow through and do all the work so that we are ready and so that none of our sap goes to waste. If we don't have time to do all this work or have people to help us do it, we shouldn't tap trees. Sure enough, Nokomis was right. It warmed up, and they all went out to collect the sap and boil again. This time their parents and a few cousins joined them. It was just like Mishumis described in the old times, when everyone would be out at the sugar bush. After that, they went out and collected and boiled a few more times over the next few weeks. Then one day they went out again, and they heard frogs peeping in the distance. Do you hear that? Mishoma says. It's umakaki. It means we start pulling our taps and boil what we have. It's warmer now, and the sap is done running for the year. They went around and collected all the taps and bag holders at their sugar bush. We have to be sure that we gather everything and put it away for next year. We have to be respectful and can't just leave things lying around in a big mess, Mishumis said. A few days later, Nokomis made pancakes for breakfast. Together they all sat down at the table and poured the delicious maple syrup over their pancakes. Sugar bush is a lot of work, but it's worth it when we have this good food to eat, Awanakwe said.